Barbara, thanks for having Ted and me over. You're the only person in the world that I could think of if something else fell through that we had scheduled. I could just pick up the phone and say, Barbara, can we come over?
Well,
And there
I'm
you
glad
were.
you thought of it, and I'm happy to see you. I think it's a great project.
Okay. We're trying to piece together the history of ACC, and it came together in a lot of different ways. And I've heard so many people say, oh, ACC was started by a bunch of people who wanted to start a nursing home. And I tell them, no, no, it was around a long time before then. So,
They used to meet down in, wasn't it in Southside Park
no,
area?
there was the old Tambara house.
And there would be about 6 or 8 people that would just get together and talk about what they might be able to do to make things better for people.
Well, no, we had a great big meeting to because Leo Goto, who was with the redevelopment agency, was interested in housing for the older Issei who still lived around Southside
So
Park.
that's how it started.
Yeah, yeah, way
And
back.
there was no talk originally of having a nursing home.
No,
that came
not
a
not
few
at
years
the very
later.
beginning. Yeah, quite a bit
So
later.
what, maybe 8 or 10 years in, then they started talking nursing home?
Gosh, I'm trying to think. The nursing home was in the 80s but then we did bingo before that, remember? So
Yes, because I came on in 1992, and the ACC office was located in the nursing home, which was already, completely finished and full, full of people, and had been there for a while.
right. And what made you come to ACC?
Well, it was kind of a nice coincidence for all of us. I had worked for about 10 years as the accountant for a law firm, and my husband had a fatal heart attack. But I drove him to the hospital, and they paddled him back to life, and so he didn't die. He died, and they brought him back, but he was so ill for the rest of that year that I had to leave work to care for him. And so then by the time I was ready to go back to work again, and he was doing a lot better, they'd filled that job, of course, because it had been a while. And so I looked around, and here's this place that's, what is it, about 8 minutes from where I live. And I've always had this love of Japanese and Asian things. And my daughter had just come back from being in Japan for a while and visiting and being fluent in Japanese. So I thought, let's give it a try and see if it's a fit. So I went in and I was interviewed by Barbara Firebaugh, who was the coordinator at that time of ACC, and Francis Lee, who was running the bingo operation, which was the biggest fundraiser, and Chui Ito, who I think at that time was probably chairman of the board, would be my guess. He was always, always involved, but he would go in and out of, different functions. And so we sat down and had all the standard interview questions, and we just kind of clicked. We got along well, and the things that they asked I thought were good questions, and the things that I asked they were able to answer. So I remember one question, though, that was funny. I asked Barbara Firebaugh, I said, will I be sitting close enough to your office that I'll hear what you say to people so that I can sort of learn, what the line is and how you talk to volunteers and all like that? And she just cracked up laughing because, of course, the office at that time was one big workroom, and we had work tables in the center and a few desks around the end, and we were just all in there together, not like it is today. And so how it was then, Barbara was the coordinator, I was the administrative assistant. Mickey Yamadera came in, I would say, every day, at least most of the day. And where she was really good was all the volunteers, because she knew absolutely everybody in the community and had for years and years. And so a lot of times she was on the phone getting people to volunteer for one thing and another. And then we had Amiko Kashiwagi, who I think she was actually an employee, but half-time. And so she was there part of the day, and what she did is a lot of recording of donations and things like that. So that's it. That's us, our little, core group. And from that, we ran bingo and the craft and bake sale and the newsletter that came out, I guess probably quarterly in those days, and the fundraiser every year, and all sorts of, you know, donations that would come in. So now we look at it.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's Meals on Wheels, and there's assisted care living, and there's the, you know, the old people's place, and
All the
rides,
classes.
rides for seniors, right? And then all those classes. We had none of that. We were just, you know, little and friendly and cuddly and cute.
Yeah. Well, and then, you know, I was looking through some things the other day, and I saw these old newsletters, and I thought, why did I keep these? And they were just items of interest, but I saw that you were the editor of the newsletter.
I did that for a while. Now, it normally was the coordinator's job to do the newsletter. And when I came on, Barbara Firebaugh did that. And then when she got ill and left, Vic Okamoto came in. He was the coordinator about midway through while I was there. And he did some of it, but it wasn't really the thing that he loved. And then when he got ill and left, then I did it exclusively for maybe a year or so. But
And you
that's
were
all.
good at it. You were good at it.
I liked doing it.
You
See,
liked
that's
it,
the thing.
yeah.
I liked writing, and I liked the little cartoon. You remember my little cartoon
Yeah. You
people?
used to have those cute little
And they would be
cartoons.
like on our volunteer mugs in
Yeah,
different
yeah,
places.
yeah,
Little
yeah.
ACC.
So you left
bingo
your
volunteers.
imprint. Yeah.
It was a lot of fun doing that.
Right. And your title was the administrative assistant, you said, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. There.
And then when Vic got ill and left, and I was doing both, I don't know if I had any kind of title. It's just see Barbara.
Yeah, that's true. You kind of ran it, but you were behind the
And
scenes.
you know, we always had such a wonderful board of directors. I always loved the board of directors. And for instance, Ray Chan was on the board.
Oh, that's right.
And
yeah.
he's a CPA. So I'm sitting there trying to fill in for Vic, and here's something that Vic hadn't done that was very complicated accounting stuff. And I didn't know it either, but Ray Chan did. So I could go to Ray Chan and say, explain this, or, you know, and oh, that was supposed to be filed about a year ago. You should do that, and how to do it. And it was very handy. And everyone on the board had some kind of expertise, even if it was just knowing everybody in the world. There was something that they were good at. So before they let anyone on the board, I think there was an aspect of, can they contribute? Can they help us? Can they further, you know, the cause?
Yeah.
And can they call all their friends and get donations?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
does it hurt?
Yeah. So when you quit, had Barbara, not Barbara, Donna Yee come on?
She had just come on, and that was the first time that they had someone in that position. Prior to that, we had an ACC coordinator, and we had a nursing home director, and they were completely separate. And the board wanted someone that could oversee all of the ACC activities. And so she came in, and then I don't know what they did in the nursing home, because you still need someone that can run there. I think they still had a nursing home director.
Oh, yeah, they had an
But then
administrator.
she sort of oversaw all of that, and then all the new programs. That was the important thing, is all the new programs
Yeah,
coming in.
Yeah.
And she had a lot of experience with those kind of things and a lot of education, so
Yeah.
it was a pretty decent fit.
Well, I always say she brought us out of the dark ages into this new world, you know.
Well, you know, when I was working there, we were just starting to use computers. This is back in the early 90s, and there were computers, but we had like MS-DOS 386 or whatever they used to be called, and there's no windows. You've got the little white writing on the black screen, so you had to know all the codes and everything to get, you know, something like this, where you'd have bolding and underlining. You can't just go in like you do on a Windows computer. You had to know the code for underline and be able to put that
Wow.
in.
Yeah.
And then Barbara Firebaugh got us this program for all the mailing labels for the newsletter. And we sent out to, I want to say, 3,000 or 4,000 people, at least. Wouldn't you say that many?
Yeah, we had a huge
So it's a
mailing list.
huge thing for a little tiny old-fashioned computer. That's a lot of names in there. And if you wanted to change somebody, you couldn't just pull it up on the screen like we do today and change it and put it back down.
Yeah.
It was this, you had to know codes and input and exactly the sequence, and then you could change it. But it was hard, and not anyone could just walk in and do it.
Yeah.
And she started that program.
Wow.
But yeah, when Donna Yee came, the computers were just starting to get windows and be bigger, and so I could see how she could bring us into, the new century.
Yeah. Well, you were such an important part of the bingo program. We raised tons of money. Well, I mean, we never knew how much we raised or anything. We just kept doing our bingo.
Bingo was far and away the biggest source of funds for ACC, always, always, and it ran 2 days a week out at the Mayhew Bingo Center. And this is a book that I used to keep of the volunteers that helped at bingo. And you can see all the people. And this is just like one book. This went on for years and years and years. And these are mostly people who worked, who would, come out there. We'd feed them. That was one of the only little benefits of being a bingo volunteer. And then after working all day, they'd work up until 10:30 or 11 o'clock at night and run the bingo. And you recall, because you were a volunteer, the bingo hall's divided into a smoking section and a non-smoking section in those days. So all of our poor volunteers are having to go into that smoking section and be exposed to that. And so we love people like Willie, who was a smoker.
I know.
Because he said, I'll take that. I'll go over there. I'll do that part. You don't
Well,
have to
I was
do
a
it."
floor manager, and I was not a smoker. But then all the hands were going up, and none of the other people would, they really hated going in there. So I was
Absolutely.
in there a lot too. So every so often now when I have a little cough, I think,
Yeah, I
oh my
would-
gosh,
I would worry
that's
too a
my
little
secondhand
bit.
smoke.
I dearly hope not. But there were certain jobs at the bingo hall that were crucial. The callers, the desk in the money room, which Frances Lee did a lot, but we had, 5 or 6 other people who could do that job, but not everybody. And then our really little old dottery ladies, we could put them on.
Cute little jobs.
I'm selling you this book for $5. There you go. Thank you. Give me your $5. I'm done.
Yeah.
And then the young people, they were running all over the bingo floor.
Yeah.
And it was big. I had to get special tennis shoes too. Didn't you too?
Well, I
'Cause
don't
your
remember
feet would
things
get
like
so,
that.
Well, I'm doing it twice a week, every week, so maybe that's different.
Yeah.
But yeah, we made a ton of money. That was far and away the biggest fundraiser. And then we did other things. We had an annual fundraiser gala, which now is kind of casual and people come in their flip-flops. Back then, you'll recall, the ladies dressed to the nines and they wore their jewelry, and the men put on their suits and their ties. And even if there was dancing and a lot of eating, everyone came decked out. It was an occasion to go to the ACC fundraiser every year.
Yeah.
And then we had the craft and bake sale every fall. And there were people that were involved with the craft and bake sale from probably the 80s all the way through. And people like Mickey Yamadera or Nancy Akabori would be on the phone. And a lot of times is, can you, bring your same muffins that you brought last year? Can you do mochi again? Or she'd be calling the restaurants, can you make a donation to this or that? And then all the crafters, they knew who they were. They knew who did, all the different Asian crafts and other crafts.
Yeah.
So we never had problems getting donations. And then some people would bring in plants. And because it was that time of year, we got tons and tons of,
Persimmons and things like
but
that.
what are persimmons called?
Kaki?
Kaki.
Yeah.
We get tons and tons of that, and sometimes some Chinese melons. I think it was that time of year too. So it was really fun. But the best part of Craft and Bake Sale is you'd get volunteers in to help, and they'd be there all day. So you had a chance to chat and talk and catch up with people, and it was very social. It was really a fun thing. It was easy to get volunteers to do that.
Yeah. Well, Ted asked me one time, what is it about the bingo volunteers that made you just keep going? And I think it was a camaraderie we had, you know? It was a special bunch of people.
Yes. There,
And it was
even though you're
fun.
going out and you're doing your own job, maybe you're working the floor, you're always coming back into the money room. Okay, I'll give you an example. We used to sell pull tabs, and those are little cards that you scratch them off or you pull them off and see if you won, you know, 250 or whatever. And so, God, who was the guy that would always be selling pull tabs? He was a big, tall, funny guy. We had this pull tab game called Stud. And one of the regular bingo players came up and she said, "Oh, no stud?" And he said, "What am I, salami?" You know, it's just that quick. And everyone around you is like that, you know. They're just ready with a quick joke, and they're out there to have fun. And they know that if we're having fun, it's going to be more fun for the bingo players, too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so there was a little, like a, not a restaurant, but a little cafe sort of place
Oh, yeah,
attached to it. And so everybody could go over there and get their sandwich or their soup or whatever they wanted to have. So you come back and mostly eat it in the money room, I think people would do.
Yeah.
Or maybe a corner of the bingo hall. But there was lots of chances to hobnob with
Yeah,
your friends.
it was fun. Yeah, yeah.
That was a very stressful job, keeping the bingo game fully staffed. Because there are certain jobs, like I said, you have to have. You can't run bingo if you don't have them. And there are some jobs that only have a few people that can do them. And so you're calling and people are having work problems or they're having family issues and you're trying to find a substitute, and it was very, very time consuming. And plus you always have to be very, very nice to everybody because they're doing you a favor. It's not like you're paying them to do this. So.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and you know what Mayhew's problem was? Well, I call it a problem, but remember you had to bingo on the last number called. You couldn't be a sleeper. And I remember this one Japanese woman, she slept. And I told her, "I'm really sorry, but we can't pay you." And she says, "Why not?" And I said, "Because that's our rules, you know." And she says, "Well, the other places let you do that."
Really?
And I said, "No, that's not, ours is set." And then she says, "Well, I'm never going to go to ACC again."
She was back next week,
And I
wasn't
said, "I'm really sorry, you know." Well, people like that, they, go around the circle and they come back.
They come back.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, well, Frances Lee, who was no bigger than a minute, I mean, she maybe was 5 foot tall on a good day. She ran that like a general. And a rule like that would have come directly from Frances Lee, and there were certain other ones, so that there was just never any argument, never any potential.
I think that when the people who ran it, they decided that was going to, you can't have 10 games later someone yell out bingo,
No.
So, so.
No, she did a really good job of that. And then when I first went out there, she hadn't had any help. And the bingo office was just this jumble of boxes of pull tabs and all the bingo paper. It comes in all these cases of different denominations, and it's just everything is everywhere. So I think I spent about the first 3 months just organizing and cleaning and stacking things on shelves.
Yeah, you're such a good organizer.
I like doing that, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I even took out a hand vac because I don't think the carpet had been vacuumed in I don't know how long. And, it's bingo. We're just not uptown.
Yeah.
But it was fun. We had a good time out there.
Do you have anything else that your experience during your tenure at ACC that you might...
One of the things, and I pointed this out when they were interviewing for, I think, Donna Yee's position, that one of the most important things I saw ACC doing, absolutely the nursing home and the benefits to the seniors and all the things that they did, but a huge benefit from 350 people who were able to come in and volunteer and be a part of their community, see other friends, especially for seniors. Maybe they're at home most of the time, and this is a chance to get out. And they'd come in and they'd do like newspaper address stickers. We had a crew that would come in and do. And people would look forward to that. And so I always wanted to point out to anyone who ever came after me to never let that aspect of ACC go, because it's really, really important to a big group of people. The young ones that are coming from work and doing bingo after work, well, okay, maybe they can get along without it. But the seniors who wait all week for something to do and see their friends, they loved all the little different volunteer jobs we had.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would say never lose sight of that.
Well, I know in PTA or any of those groups, you know, the volunteers are the heart and soul of the organization, you know.
It's really true.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's really true.
Yeah.
ACC never could have grown to what it is. I don't care what kind of leadership or education or anything the top people have without all. Oh, and here's another thing that's a very big community benefit and moneymaker for ACC is the fact that in the newspaper, we always printed all the donations and especially the ones that are in memoriam. You lost someone that is dear to you and you write it in and then there's their name in the newspaper along with your name and that really means something. And there's no place else they can do that. There's, you know, no other forum. But I think you probably still do this. I still do this. I pick up the newsletter. I turn to that first to see who's remembering who had a 100th birthday, you know, all those kind of little community things.
Yeah.
And who remembers somebody that I remembered from 15 years ago?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, Chewy has just passed away recently, you know. And
so sad.
do you have anything, special thoughts of
Well,
him?
Chewy was just a force to be reckoned with. You know, I don't believe he was an educated man. I don't think he maybe even went to college. But he was smart, he was likable, he was a businessman, he understood that sort of stuff. He knew how to, you know, run a board so it would be effective, not just look good on paper. And I guess he encouraged people in the right way to get involved and make a difference, and he always did. From my first day there to my last day there and up until, you know, he had a stroke and couldn't do anymore. He never missed helping and contributing. So very, very dear man, I'm really sorry that he's not in our world anymore. I'll miss him.
Well, thank you so much, Barbara.
So you think we've covered everything that we need to?
I don't know. I'll probably go home and think of a million things I didn't ask you, but, you know.
That's all right. I'm just, you know, one little window, but I guess if you do enough of these, you can piece it all together and
Yeah, I
come up
think
with it.
it's really helpful.
And it's nice for, you know, the 23-year-olds that are coming in now and they didn't know all these other people and how hard they worked and how much they did. It wasn't just a notion to come in once a month. These people were really working at it.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't imagine building a nursing home. You and me, let's get together and build a nursing home.
Well, I remember telling Chewy, Chewy one time, Chewy, we have to build this thing because we're getting old. We have to have a place to go. And then he ended up being there. And I thought, well, I don't know if I want to go there. I just want to drop dead. Yeah, but it got done.
Actually, that nursing home has had a very good reputation for a very long time. They've always been like 5-star.
Yeah.
And their new facilities are following the same track record. Like when everyone was getting COVID, ACC people weren't getting COVID. I was really pleased to read that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. Well,
All right.
Thank you.
Good job, old bean.